Dan, I want to talk a little bit about boundaries for therapists who are in private practice.
Sure.
And one of the things that's a challenge for those of us who live in small towns is that we see our clients everywhere, in the bank, in the grocery store, next to me in the bleachers at the t-ball game, on the playground, you name it. And there's that awkward moment of, hello. And sometimes I think it's the same phenomenon that kids have with their teacher. It's like you're wheeled out of the closet for their class, and then you're wheeled back in. And I think sometimes our clients are really startled to find us in regular
Clothes.
life.
Right. Exactly.
Life. So there is that awkward moment. And also for me, now what do we do? And certainly, as a community person, I want to be involved in my community, and I want to be a friendly presence in my community. But it's really, really important to be clear that we're not going to talk about things we talked about in session at all. And that's not just for my protection, it's also for the client's protection.
Sure.
Because I think it's really important for our clients to know that there is a protected space called our office. And in that protected space, we can talk about things that are sometimes hard. And that they have control over what is said in that protected space. Out in the community, if you say, by the way, remember that awful thing I was talking about? Well, when is the beginning, the middle, and the end?
Yes.
And how do you end it?
Yes. Right.
So I think it's a very important factor in our work is to be clear about boundaries and to certainly be friendly and approachable, but to keep it very, very clear that this is not a therapy session and not a by the way.
Yes, right.
Something awful happened last night. If people do feel compelled to say something like that, my approach is to say, that's really too bad. I think it's important we talk about. If you think it's so important that we need an extra session, why don't you call me later and we'll make an appointment?
Yeah,
and
that's
that
great.
keeps it clear.
That's really great. I'll just, one real quick funny story. I do my banking through drive-through, and I had a client who was the bank teller.
Yes.
And it was 2 days after a particularly difficult session, and as I went through, she started giving me the update through the intercom, and there were all these cars of people, and I had to say exactly what you said before. It sounds like maybe you should give me a call later on so that we can do this privately. And she was like, oh, of course, I think folks forget.
They do forget. By the way, I had the same thing happen at a fast food drive-through.
Exactly.
So again, I think sometimes it's hard for all of us to remember that just because we have this kind of intimate relationship within a certain context, that relationship doesn't flow over naturally necessarily into the drive-through.
Exactly.
To be clear about that.
Drive-through therapy, right?
That's what's next.